Tim will kind of talk to us a little bit about the whole optimization behind that.
So the keynote speaker that was at the Vision Summit went ahead and started off with a comment. The way that we've told stories for generations is from a single person's view. Ever since the printing press came out, you had a single narrator. Once you go ahead and go into VR, you've changed that. You've allowed for individuals to move around. They can change views, they can change places, they can continue to look somewhere where you didn't expect they were going to look. That concept and view continued on to the people at Vive. And when they started working on optimization, they came to a very, very interesting revelation. In the robot repair, they were going ahead and optimizing it and trying to make it work just based off of how everyone optimizes. Everyone optimizes one way. You got your A's, your B's, your C's. Your A's, we're going to put all our money into this. This is where we put our energy. This is how we're going to do that. Our B's, we're going to put a little bit of money into that. Our C's, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make it to where, you know, it's kind of okay. He walked in one day and he saw one of the cousins of one of the developers looking at the robot from underneath. At that point, it dawned on him. VR is a very different experience. People are going to look, they're going to play, they're going to touch, they're going to move around in entirely different ways than we've ever dreamed. So the concept of we're going to optimize based off of standard paradigm, which is the way that we have for generations optimized for video games, has to be thrown out the window. We have to talk about a full world optimization. We have to talk about the added complexities and problems that we have in optimization in general in the VR environment. Just like Charlie was saying, the way the game engines work, and up till Friday, all game engines worked was you would have a certain set of information that was handed off from the CPU to the GPU, and it was shown to someone's eyes. And that was done per eye. Left eye, hand off, oh, set pass. Right eye, hand off, set pass. The problem that we have with that entire concept is when you have two eyes, you're more than taxing the system by half. Originally, if you had a mobile experience, you could get away with 300, 400. If you're really good at what you're doing, you can get away in the mid 600s. If you're really, really good at it. I've been on a couple of game engines, like the Aurora engine, which is entirely 2D from GameLoft, and we were pushing above 800 drop balls.
What's the unit?
What's the unit? What is a drop ball?
800 watts.
Drop balls. Yes. Drop balls. And so it wasn't entirely set pass. And the way that they did their setup, it was too stitched and smaller. So they were pushing, a very, very optimized environment. It was very awesome. But on average, if you're dealing with you get away with 300 set passes, 250, something in that jazz. Gear VR, their recommendations are 100. I can tell you, you're lucky if you're getting away with 40. And that really comes down to, they say, that it has to do with it's because it's per eye, that you have that information and all that. So the big problem is, how do we go ahead and show a very high fidelity image, and how do we go ahead and deal with that extra complexity? What they're coming up with right now, and this is super awesome, is what's called GPU instance. So instead of us taking the CPU, packaging up that information, set, pass to the GPU, twice, one eye. What we're doing is we're bundling, pulling it over, and then going, hey, how about you? But what we'll do is we'll move you over just a little bit. And it takes that entire scene. This is, of course, a very high-level concept and overview. And we're going to shift everything. And what that does is it creates the VR experience that we know. At the same time, it reduces the complexity. It reduces the amount of overhead that we have to do. And I've actually seen Unreal released as of Friday their GPU instancing. And I can tell you beforehand, you're getting 100,000 tries, and it was a little bit better than Unity's, but the big push afterwards was I'm getting about 500,000 tries. The big positive with that is there's a large reuse of material. Normally, whenever you go ahead and you make games, you try to have, you know, possibly as many hero objects as you can get, so you get up to it and it looks good and whatnot. But the added complexity that you have with VR comes down to, well, the more of those objects that I have on the scene, the less likely it's going to get instanced, which means that since I am already so taxed with the overhead of using the CPU so much to deal with the situation, then you know you're hamstringing your entire processing. And so that is going to help everyone out. So try to be as original as you can with the same Rubik's Cube. So think of Lego. You want to be as Lego as possible. Modular design, small pieces that are reused over and over and over again, so the GPU goes, yeah, that's you. Oh yeah, that's you. Oh yeah, that's you. Over and over and over again, so and then it's good to go one time across. Versus you're different, 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 and then you're just chugging. And big problem in normal games, if I chug, okay, whatever, I can hide it sometimes. Maybe there's a big explosion and that's all we're looking at is the explosion. There's an explosion happening in front of me. How can we do this? Huge problem with that. There's a major issue when people start doing that and there's a huge slowdown, you're going to make people very sick. So it goes back to Valve and go back to storytelling and the fact that you are the narrator at that point and nobody's told you what your narration is and where you stand, that you can affect people's entire experience to the point that you have to push optimization to the forefront. So right now, until we have everything figured out, I would recommend a less AAA experience. I would recommend pushing more in the 2D range because of the high pop in color. You can get away with a whole bunch more in hiding what's happening with your art, lower poly counts, things like that. And as the game engines continue to progress, we're going to have a whole bunch more stuff. Valve released on Unity the lab, which the lab has an entirely different render setup. It allows 18 dynamic lights at the same time, and these paradigms that were completely incapable of happening. But first, you have to be on a beta version of Unity. You have to deal with their setup. It's not all integrated yet. So until those paradigms happen, and we very early on figure out what's happening in the storytelling experience, to be able to optimize in our environment is inherently dangerous and difficult. So try to scale back. Think, like Charlie was saying, N64. Think Xbox, not Xbox 360 or Xbox. Give an engaging, positive experience, because if you hit low frame rate, you're not just going to annoy people, you're going to turn people off from VR entirely.